Welcome. Once again, this is Court in Session. I'm your host, Justice Hype. No, this isn't the court of law, more like the court of public observation and factual information, where you or I could be the judge, jury, plaintiff, or defendant. It all depends on your observations and personal perceptions. And before we move on, I must extend a sincere condolences to all those grieving right now and in trauma, as we have just passed another deadly, violent 4th of July weekend in which acts of senseless, random violence has reared its head across the country. And I urge each and every one of you to remain vigilant and aware of your surroundings at all times, as we are once again in that season of acts of random, senseless violence. And moving on with the docket today, we have one Christopher Dorsey, aka BG, Baby Gangster of Cash Money, formerly Cash Money Records, or maybe still signed to Cash Money Records, I'm not sure. Recently released from serving an 11-year sentence. Originally sentenced to 14 years. He served 11 years of that 14-year sentence for gun possession and obstruction of justice, but has been recently ordered by a court to have all music approved upon release. Yes, a court has ordered BG to submit all visual and audio content to be approved upon release. And this continues our discussion of our remaining independence in this republic, our remaining civil liberties, what's left of our First Amendment rights, as once again an artist his lyrics are being used against him. And this is nothing new, as rap lyrics have been used since the 80s to indict and incriminate someone. Even as recent as 2017 in the state of Maryland, a murder conviction was upheld by an appeals court based on the lyrics of a song. Even though the lyrics did not directly implicate the defendant, they were still sentenced. A murder conviction was still upheld in an appeals court based on those lyrics. So we have to get rid of this mentality and this saying that we have in the hip-hop community that it's just words and it's just art. No, it's not just words. We found out from Kanye West when he made certain comments that it's not just words and it's not just art. When you are in a position of making a lot of money for record executives and labels, yes, you are given free will to promote whatever dysfunction and put out as many dysfunctional and destructive messages as possible. But when you are brought into the court of law, or when your art goes against the status quo, then it is revealed that you have a boss, that all that money and the wealth that you have acquired does not afford you the opportunity to say whatever you like and use the crutch that it's just art to get out of it. And so here we have BG on probation. And I must add this, that probation isn't a right. It is seen as an act of lenience. So originally, BG was sentenced to 14 years for his gun possession and obstruction of justice convictions, but was granted probation/parole as a means of lenience by the court. And often, probation is seen as a pathway to rehabilitation. So the guidelines are set. There are certain guidelines in which one must adhere to that are set to make sure that one is on the pathway of rehabilitation. And that could be highly debated, as we know that our criminal justice system over the last couple hundreds of years have not done the job of rehabilitating citizens, and more so is serving as an act of punishing and just separating the have-nots and those in society that are seen as the have-nots, the less than those who have, those who are undesirable, and pretty much just disenfranchised from the rest of society. And so that is the structure and the guidelines. And as you can see on your screen, I'll read it out for those who may not be able to see. The defendant argues that he has not engaged in any criminal activities or even conduct outside the acceptable norms of society, as his music is self-expression and his lyrics do not rise to the level of illegal or criminal activity. The defendant argues that the additional condition proposed by the government is an unconstitutional prior restraint of speech that is overly broad condition of supervised release. And so even at first, the prosecutors wanted a condition of his release for him to completely abstain from promoting violence or any types of references to murder as terms of his probation. But the judge actually overstepped the prosecutor, right? And initially, their initial request to prohibit BG from being able to release any music that contained references to murder or any illegal activity. But the judge basically overstepped the prosecutor and rejected the plea, and instead ordered that instead of the prosecution's request to not have BG release any music at all, period, with any of these references, have the music instead submitted to the court for approval. So at some juncture, the judge realized that she could not prohibit BG from releasing music or his First Amendment right to express himself artistically, but instead, once again, using the means or using the guidelines of probation, said that the content should be first submitted and reviewed by the court prior for authorization. So this is a case in which, once again, we're seeing where the law is used and people in positions of power are used to obstruct the First Amendment rights of citizens. And no, I am not for a lot of the dysfunctional and destructive messages put into the music. These artists, once again, have to be accountable for the music that they're putting out, and BG, being on papers, should be able to use his better judgment to understand that these people are on top of him. He was recently detained after performing with Dorsey, in which they heard some of the lyrics, or maybe a clip was sent to a probation officer or to the court, and he was detained as pretty much violating his probation guidelines for performing said lyrics and promoting said messages in his music. So this is a very, very slippery slope between being able to express yourself artistically, as we know with hip hop. Many times a rapper, he pens out what he sees around him. It's not necessarily his or her experiences directly that they are putting in the form of rap and music. But at the same token, we also know that there's artists out there, YMW Melly, that and Young Thug, his case is also another case in which lyrics are being examined in the court of law and can potentially put people away for a very long time. So we have to understand, and these artists have to understand, that there are repercussions for these lyrics that they're putting out. They can't just get in the booth and just say whatever. There are actual lives that are attached, and there are actual ramifications attached to the messages that they are putting out there in these lyrics. And so I'm going to even go further and read what you may or may not see on the screen as far as the government's idea of rehabilitation and what probation guidelines are supposed to represent. The government correctly points out that the goal of supervised release is rehabilitation and the successful re-entry into society of a recently incarcerated individual. The government argues that the defendant's recent lyrics allegedly glorify murder, drug dealing, and threatening those who cooperate with the police echo conduct that led to the defendant's imprisonment and are inconsistent with the goals of rehabilitation. So what's being said here in layman's terms is we have granted you leniency by suspending your 14-year sentence to an 11-year sentence, in which we're granting you probation. We're going to let you out of this box under the terms and conditions that you are prohibited from glorifying murder, drug dealing, threatening those who cooperate with the police, or any other illegal messages or activities that you may convey through your music. So this is what it is. You are still state property of the state of Louisiana, and we are telling you that for you to walk free, that you are going to walk free under these terms, even if we are infringing on your First Amendment rights. So get this right. My younger dudes out there, man, don't get caught up in the illusions that these guys present, that they the boss and they on top of things, they calling all the shots. Because when they get behind those walls and they get in front of that judge, then their tone changes. Their tone has to change, because then we see who really wields the power. We're seeing this with Young Thug. Right now, he's talking real humble. He wasn't talking that humble when he was out in the streets. And he was able to go in the booth and talk about his ops and all of this stuff. He was very, very far from humble at that time. So we see how this all works out and who wields the power, who holds the sword. Anyway, my peoples, it's the middle of summer. Please stay safe, stay vigilant, aware of your surroundings at all times, and just stay hydrated as well. For my people in Louisiana with that new gun law, stay safe. Them guns gonna be popping. Get in the comments. Peace.